Hey guys, it's Scooter Poop. I'm here with a Marvel Snap video with my hot takes. I'm going to try to go from the coldest take to the hottest take, or at least what I think the community would expect the coldest take to the hottest take would be. But I don't really know because I'm not all of you. But let's start with America Chavez. America Chavez, this has got to be the coldest take, right? It's really shown us how much every percent matters. This is true of card games. This is true of gambling games. This game is both. So it's really important to get your percent matters. I have like two semi-hot takes here. I don't know. One is that like at her worst, she is a mega Kang, and what I mean by that is obviously you're not seeing what your opponent is doing ahead of time. But what I mean by that is that every time someone posts their favorite Kang experience, it's always like, oh, I drew him turn five, I played him turn five. It's like I have an 11 card deck. Like, yeah, but America Chavez does that the first 5 turns of the game instead of only that one turn. And she, in addition, like doesn't need to be drawn and played in order for it to happen, right? So she does it passively. Um, I think this card is like crazy, crazy strong when you make that sort of comparison. But my actual hot take is I think that she'd be put in decks even if she were literally unplayable. What I mean by that is I imagine like a nerfed version of her that's like like no power, not even zero power, just no power. It's blank, no energy. It's blank. And what happens is you don't draw a card turn six. So like turn six, like you have an 11 card deck. She can't be Yondu, Jubileed, nothing. She's literally just not in your deck. She's in another dimension. Turn six comes, two portals open. She comes out of one, she goes into the other. So she never joins your hand. You would never draw that extra card. I still think this card would get played, and that's kind of an issue. Maybe I'm wrong. This is my hot take, but the fact that you get that effect, that Kang effect for first 5 turns of the game, and then you still get a 9 power card is kind of crazy. I think it's kind of crazy. Maybe America Chavez on a cheaper card. I have no idea. But this card is kind of needs changed. Loki. Okay, Loki. To me, this is one of the coldest takes of all time. But I don't know how the community will react. So I put it after Chavez. But maybe you'll think this is a hot take. There's only one view I have about Loki, and it's just that reducing costs was a mistake. It was completely unnecessary. I don't understand why it was done. We have Quinjet already, so this was printed or I don't know about printed, but it came out with the floor being -1 cost and the ceiling being -2 cost with the Quinjet, and I don't understand the decision behind that. I don't understand the thought process. It doesn't sound healthy for the game having mechanics like that. But a floor of just okay, you like change your whole hand into what your opponent is doing. You get a lot of information there. Um, you know got already played your cards, so you're gonna get their card. Like there's a lot of benefits still to it. And then if you have the Quinjet, now you have that ceiling of oh okay, like all my cards are cheaper now, which is even better. So like why they made the floor and ceiling higher, I don't understand. Not to mention that Quinjet and Loki both have synergy with the same cards, right? Agent Coulson, any card that puts stuff into your hand, right? Snowguard, like they have synergy with the same cards. So like, okay, yeah, they're gonna be put in the same deck. Same with Collector, right? Like these are the deck kind of builds itself. It did not seem very difficult to put that deck together, especially with the Snowguard changes coming. And I think they really dropped the ball on this one. I really don't understand it. My analogy with this is relating it to Magic the Gathering when Omnath, the 4 color Omnath came out with Lotus Cobra, and like the community broke the format in like a day, and it's like the problem isn't that they broke the format in a day. It's just how they broke the format, right? Because obviously with Arena, an online system, they could play more games and break the format faster. The data collection is just immense online instead of in person. But they didn't like have to play a lot of games. They literally just were like, "Oh, we'll put all these mechanics together. They work together," and then it was OP. So like whoever tested this, I think did a really bad job. I don't understand this. It's so stupid. Going on. Okay, Hela. Hela may be a bit of a shock to people. I think there's just a problem with Hela. It's first of all, it's super effortless, right? It doesn't feel good to lose against Hela because it doesn't feel like your opponent really even did anything. They just got the RNG. It worked out. Congratulations. So it doesn't feel very good. They can have a 3 card combo. They can literally just Invisible Woman Modok Hela and win the game. It is not great feeling, and it just feels bad. Um, but there's a bigger issue with Hela, in my opinion, as than it just feeling bad or just being effortless. Like I kind of like its effortlessness. I kind of relate to Galactus, right? People got mad at Galactus because it's like you either win or you lose with Galactus. I kind of feel like it's the same with Hela, right? Like you're either just like you pop off or you don't, and like the game is over, or it did like it's not good gameplay. Um, but a lot of streamers like to point out, or YouTubers like to point out, like, oh, this card has a really high cube rate. And the thought process behind that is, oh, well, it's a turn six card that has a huge power swing, so you can bait people into it. And that's kind of my issue at the root of it, right? It's hard to snap against Hela because it can always just pop off and you can just lose your cubes for like no reason. Unless you're playing the Cosmo or something and you know where they're gonna play Hela and MODOK, like it feels really, really bad. To just like be like unable to snap against this deck that has such a huge turn six swing. You can't like wave it. Sandman's useless. Like it doesn't matter. It combos pretty effortlessly. Plus, it's hard to stay against, right? Because you have to like unless you saw Hella discarded, the advice every infinite player get or gives when they post it on Reddit is like assume that your opponent has the out, that they have their play. And if you do that, then Hella just wins every time. You can, as long as you got Invisible Woman and you even fake put a MODOK under it, like you could totally feint there. Like your opponent just feels like they have to leave. Oh my god, they're in a Hella unless they have crazy power. So this is an issue because it just feels like the Hella deck goes late for free because due to how low effort, how few cards it takes, how explosive it is just not a good combination of factors. Um, so I mean, I tried to think of a proposed change. I don't think it's that good, but it's I think better than the current Hella. Is that cards enter with minus power? You can have that be a static effect of just minus two power to everything. I don't know. It could somehow be based on her own power or like the number of cards you discarded. Like there's definitely like ways to try to add some more flavor and synergy with this minus power. But even at the very least, even if it's just a static minus power, I think that's good because number one, it's just lowering the overall explosiveness of the turn six, especially considering Iron Man is another card that gets played a lot in this deck. Having negative power doubled with the Iron Man is, um, a good nerf, especially if it's in a lane with an Infinite. Like just can you lower it a little bit? um, but the main reason I like this change is because you might want to play Luke Cage in the deck, and if you're playing Luke Cage in the deck, then your deck's just getting a little bit weaker, right? Having to play four cards in the combo instead of three. Um, Discarding, maybe Luke Cage is taking up a slot in your hand when you MODOK Hella, and that's only two power, right? He's getting a lot of power with removing the minus power, but he is still not as much power as you would otherwise be. So I like the change just because it could potentially make deck building a little bit more effort, a little bit harder. Um, I think that's what she needs, but I don't know. It's a hot take. High evolutionary. Okay. Boy, do I have thoughts about high evolutionary. Okay, this isn't. I don't know if this is a hot take. It just kind of feels like the power, not even minus power, but the power in general in this deck feels a little overtuned. If you just think about all the cards that it plays and the power output that you're getting from those cards, like it just feels like too much, right? No, am I the only one? Misty Knight is getting 3, 4, 5 power or Sunspot. Cyclops is getting 8, 10 power. Thing is a 4, 9. Like, why are you getting such high power output? It's like, and again, it's kind of like effortless, right? You're not really doing a whole lot. In fact, you are supposed to not do a lot. You're supposed to not spend your energy. So, um, I don't understand. This is really the root of the problem. It's you get a more forgiving curve, and then you're rewarded for it with more power. Um, this is the real issue with high evolutionary, in my opinion, is that the mechanic of not spending your energy was thought to be a downside, and it really actually is an upside, right? The game teaches you very early on you don't need to be spending all of your energy, right? At first you think Quicksilver is good, and just having a one drop always Domino. Oh, I like this, but then like quickly you're like, well, I mean, do I really need the one drop for the two power as opposed to a different card in my deck? And chances are you don't. same kind of with Domino. The effects are probably better. Um, so this mechanic was thought to be a negative, but actually it's a positive because after the control version of this deck was nerfed and like there were other changes, people really they focused in on what the ideal high evolutionary deck was, and it's just a super low curve efficient deck. You're playing like 3 1 drops in Sunspot, Nebula, Misty Knight. You're playing the Cyclops. You're not playing a 5 drop, right? Because you're not playing on turn 5 and you're not playing it on turn 6. You want to play Hulk on turn 6 or Doctor Doom. I don't know. Like, it's not actually a negative mechanic to be playing an efficient deck. You're playing a zoo deck that for some reason has an insane power output. Um, it's a weird deck. Like it feels like double dipping, right? It feels like it was supposed to be a negative and a positive mixed together. It's like, oh, if you don't spend all your energy, you'll get rewarded. But like actually you're just double dipping. You're getting the reward of high power, but you're getting the reward of your deck building. I think the mechanic in hindsight is a failure. If you really want to balance this, if you like to keep the mechanic, it really needs a more in-depth analysis of the consistency versus the power, because it's the power. It's very consistent, and the power output is generally always going to be high. So like, there's something needs to be done, um, in my opinion. Moving on, Galactus. Galactus is probably one of the most polarizing cards in the game. Again, the pretty normal take is that people don't like the either you play Galactus and win, or you counter their Galactus and they lose. Like there's a kind of boring aspect to the coin flip that is both Hela and Galactus. But actually, I think it's a little bit worse than that because nobody talks about the coin flip aspect of Hela, only Galactus. So the issue, in my opinion, that makes Galactus feel so much worse than Hela is its one lane uniqueness. Um, Essentially, this card is not only a win condition, it's also a tech card, right? It's destroying anything that you had in the other locations. You now have generally speaking, only 2 turns to play cards now, right? Because they, generally speaking, are going to wave turn 3, Galactus turn 4, and now you have 2 turns. 2 turns, turn 5, turn 6, to try to generate more power. And because they're building for that one lane, and literally no one else is, um, they just have this immense advantage and they're going to win the game. So it's a tech card in addition to just being a win condition, whereas Hela is really just a win condition. So that's my opinion. Um, this game just has rules that are generally speaking supposed to be followed, and if they're not to be followed, then um, it's got to be for a good reason, right? So like for instance, there are 6 turns in a game. If there's TVA, that's just unlucky, right? One of the one of the decks is probably just going to benefit hugely from the TVA while the other doesn't. That's my experience anyway. But then even something like Magic, right? Adding an extra turn. Um, of TVA and Limbo, which one is a better mechanic? I think obviously Limbo. Adding to the game is more fun than removing from the game. It's gonna feel better, even if it's a fallacy, even if statistically speaking, TVA is better than Limbo, which I don't think it is, but just in case, like even if it is statistically better, it's not gonna feel better. Adding things to the game feels better. Um, so now I'm gonna get to a hot take because this wasn't even really a hot take. This is just like trying to explain the logic of why Galactus I think is more so than Hela. I like to compare this to Magic, in that Magic initially in the beta, right, could be played turn 6 and it wasn't good because giving your opponent, it's just surprising your opponent like that and saying, oh, you thought that was the last turn and you played your best hand and now there's a 7th turn. It's not good, right? Taking agency away from your players is not good. And Galactus kind of does that. Um, so I have a small hot take here that the high energy cost is actually bad. If you're going to have a Galactus, um, change the game in that way and remove from the game, having players learn about it earlier is better than finding out about it and only having 2 turns left to try to make it. Maybe this is a super bad take because if you had like a turn 1 Galactus, for instance, even if it had negative power, you could then like throw, a Green Goblin to clog the space, the Hobgoblin, like all this stuff can still hit. Maybe there's more counterplay because your opponent can play the Cosmo there after the Galactus, and if they try to Goblin, then they're screwed. Or you can fill up your lane, and if they play the Hobgoblin, then they're screwed. it's more interesting gameplay, giving people more time to plan and to counter what their opponent is doing. So even the fact that it's one lane and it's taking away from the rest of the game, just the fact that people know about it in advance is a better thing. And I think that the Magic change from 5 to 3 is a great example of that, right? Not only did Magic not feel good to play turn 5, even if you had given it more power, I don't know how good it really feels because then your opponent still doesn't have the information that you have that, oh, there's going to be a 7th turn. So playing it earlier into the game at 3 is going to feel better. It should be a lower power card. It shouldn't be something that like can just surprise your opponent, but giving your opponents more time. They have half the game three, four turns 4, 5, and 6, and if nobody legions or anything, a 7th turn, 4 turns to plan ahead. The change to Magic I think is fantastic, and I think that the Galactus change kind of exemplifies the same kind of logic. However, there is another route that you could take. I don't think it's as good actually. Weirdly, is a Lifebringer version of Galactus, or maybe just change Galactus into the Lifebringer version, because, first of all, that is his character right now. Galactus is actually someone who creates worlds, not destroys them. This is an outdated Galactus. So creating a 4th location, again, it's additive instead of negative, right? You are creating a 4th location, and that's a good thing. And it makes the game a little bit more dynamic. So it's the same thing where it changes the win conditions from, oh, you're all playing for 2 to 3 lanes while I'm playing for 1 lane, so I just have this huge advantage, to suddenly, playing for 4 lanes is just more interesting, more dynamic. The only problem with this version, I think, is that it's kind of just OP, and I don't think you can really nerf it that well. I'm thinking of cards like Squirrel Girl even, Khazar, Blue Marvel, Patriot, Mystique, and most specifically Ultron. Galactus Ultron is a really cool idea, but I do think that the deck is probably a little bit degenerate. Even Doctor Doom, right, is a little too degenerate. Mr. Fantastic is the one that I think benefits most from this. So I guess Squirrel Girl too. But Mr. Fantastic is interesting because then at least you have 2 middle locations. You have 2 locations to spread that 6 power that he's bringing. But he's definitely not as good as like the Patriot, Mystique, Ultron thing. So I don't know about the 4th location. Maybe the 4th location would be a specific location every time, kind of like Magic, that that makes the game interesting. Or maybe he has like a different set of locations, like it randomizes between a couple to make the game more interesting. I like that idea, but I assume that this is probably too strong with Ultron strats. But yeah, that second take sounds really like a hot take, but I think honestly it would be better for the game. Moving on, Wave. Wave is the last card I'm going to talk about. This is the card that I think is the hottest take from the community. I think is one of the cold takes. I think it's a very similar change to Loki. The problem with Wave for me is it's too often better than Sandman, and the fact that it's competing with Sandman at all is weird, right? Because their effects don't look similar, but the applications of their effects are the same. You can instead, unless there was like was it the white hot room or whatever it is that adds more energy, unless there's something like that, generally speaking, or like Electro and Magic, generally speaking, you're only going to be able to play one thing on that turn. So yeah, I know that Wave is only 1 turn and Sandman is permanent, but like any deck that would want Sandman's effect just plays Wave instead, you know? There's Kitty Pryde in the meta. Oh, we're gonna Wave on turn 5. There's Hitmonkey. Actually, Hitmonkey's not really in the meta anymore, but if you were, right, Wave turn 5. Like they have to then, they have to play their Hitmonkey on turn 5. It's not gonna be as good. Wave is just doing Sandman's job, and she does it better than him. She's the same power. She's less energy. And she has even bonus synergy with High Evolutionary. You play her on turn 5, you're not spending all of your energy, you're getting bonuses. Then turn 6, you're also not spending all of your energy, you get bonuses. I just think Wave shouldn't ever be competing with Sandman, and so Wave shouldn't be a tech card. So there's an easy fix for this. Just don't make it increase the cost of cards. This sounds like a really hot take. I think it's actually a pretty reasonable change. Just make her the Herald of Galactus. Make her just the Herald of big cards that you want to play. And that's all she should do, I think, This card hasn't been changed, like, the entire time I've played the game for a year. It's just wild to me. The only change that was made was not interacting positively with Death and She-Hulk and stuff. But yeah, I don't know why this card increases the cost of cards. Can you imagine how much worse Galactus would be if your opponent could just play multiple cards to try to counter Galactus instead of being limited to only one? Like, even that change, even just this change with a current Galactus makes the Galactus more healthy to face. Because one of the strongest things about the Galactus deck is I can only play one thing here. Why? Why is she doubling as a one-turn Sandman? I just don't get it. This is an easy change to me. Lastly, second dinner. My hot take is that they're doing a good job. I don't think this should be a hot take, but people seem to really not like a lot of the things that they do. And I understand that there's like a lot of factors and everyone's going to have differences in opinions about certain things. Obviously, I've shown a lot of hot takes. Obviously, I don't like everything about the game. I didn't like the fact that Loki reduces costs and that Wave reduces costs, or I'm sorry, increases costs. Um, current Galactus is weird. Like, but the way it change might affect it. Like, there's so many factors that I don't like about the game, but like, why do you then have to think that they are not trying? Because I see the effort. I look at all the OTA changes; they look amazing. Do they not? Think about how many cards they've changed in OTAs that have positively affected the game. Nerfs to strong cards, buffs to weaker cards. Sometimes they have to undo some of the changes they've made, but like Forge, right? They're trying to find a good place for all these cards. I think they're doing a damn fucking good job, and it's sad that the community doesn't respect that. Um, Anybody who's played a gotcha game knows how much a company can milk their community, and specifically how much they can put a disparity between the whales and the free to play players. And I don't think that Marvel Snap does that. I don't think that there is such a huge disparity between people who pay, because most of the time people who pay, sure, they'll have the whole collection, but having the whole collection is not as good in Marvel Snap as in other gotcha games. Where just having everything and just being able to make uh, any team or whatever of monsters, creatures, people, whatever characters is just very strong. It's not true in this. I don't think it's true in this in Marvel Snap. So yes, they're gonna have high priced variant bundles and stuff. Like, let them. The whales are paying for us to play this game. And I've spent money on this game. I bought every single battle pass up to Elsa when I stopped playing. Yes, I've stopped playing. um, I bought the like starter pack, was like the $3 or not Captain Marvel, Captain America thing, and I think I spent $5 on the like LGBTQ pack with like Iceman and America Chavez because I really wanted an America Chavez skin. But other than that, like, I've not spent money on this game, so I have spent a decent amount, but like I'm not a whale by any means. I've spent in total, I want to say like a little over $100 on this game in this past year, which is, a choice that I made, but I'm not a whale, and I got so much for that amount of money. And even if you were free to play, I think you're still getting a lot. You're not getting as much. I got, 11, 12 extra cards from the passes, not to mention variants, but um, it's really beneficial. It's really like comparing this to gotcha games. It's no contest to me. Second Dinner is a much better company in how they're approaching balancing. They're a better company in how they're approaching monetization. You guys need to fucking cut them some slack. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be blunt. The community is fucking terrible. It feels like every time like people post on Reddit, I'm seeing downvotes when there shouldn't be downvotes. I don't know. The community feels really toxic. The emotes, right? Anyway, moving on. I like Second Dinner. That said, there are some super snarky OTA descriptions. It feels like they don't like their community. But again, I can't blame them, right? Because their community sucks. It's a toxic community. But at first, I was appalled. I saw like some descriptions and OTAs of the changes and their rationale and the community, and I was like, "Damn! Like, I can't believe this got approved through the person writing it, the editing, the final approval. I don't know how many people were involved. It could just be one person, but like, there's some super snarky descriptions. They're subtle, they're implied sometimes, but they are there if you read between the lines. But then I started to really appreciate them because I started to realize I agree with them. I think that the community does suck. And also, I'm kind of imagining a culture of them just like not liking their community and like, we pass somebody in the hall and you're just like, oh, this community, right? Yeah, this community. Like, what business doesn't do that. Like every business does that. Restaurants do that, sales. Like everyone hates the fucking when you're servicing people, you're going to get people that are super fucking annoying and cringe. So, I started to really enjoy these snarky OTA descriptions, but they've really dialed it down. I haven't seen them as much in the past like 3 or 4 OTAs. Um, so that's it. So long and thanks for all the snaps. Like I said, this I'm done playing the game. But please don't mistake my decision to stop as like I don't like the game. These hot takes are not representative of my decision to not play the game anymore. I just wasn't really having fun anymore. I was having fun playing other games, and so I decided I'm gonna stop playing the Marvel Snap. I can save the money; it's fine. But I do like the game. I think that it deserves a spot amongst the games. Like I think it should be played. I appreciate the company. Um, I don't know. I just feel like when you stop playing a game, it doesn't have to be negative, you know? Maybe that's a hot take. One more hot take. Fuck people who use this emote. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't even know if this is a hot take. I think the community's kind of split on this. But, like, for me, the fact of the matter is there's a fist bump emote, and it's a collaborative, like, we had a good game, right? When you have a good game, if you're in person, I fist bump somebody, like that's great. If I like win the game and I thumbs up at them, like it just feels more like a I won. This is good for me with a wink and everything. Then that was a good game. There's just a better emote for it. So if you're making an active decision to not use the objectively better emote and you're using this one that could be mistaken and you don't care what people think, then you're willingly choosing to be an asshole. That's my opinion. I think that's true for anything. Like imagine somebody who has like autism, right? Like they don't understand social situations as much. Now imagine like that somebody tells them, "Hey, you shouldn't do that." Like, you know, it's seen kind of negatively. It seems kind of like you're insulting them. And the person was just like, "Well, fuck them. I don't care. I don't care. Sure, I may be doing the wrong thing. Sure, maybe there's a better option, but I don't care." Like even though they have autism, they're still an asshole. Somebody tried to help them and they're still an asshole. So like that's my issue. Nobody has any complaints about the fist bump. Nobody says, "Oh, if you're fist bumping, you're an asshole." But a decent amount of people say if you're using this emote instead of the fist bump for a GG, then you're an asshole. And I don't know, man. Just make better choices, I think. Or just remove this emote. It's just not a good emote. There've been so many memes like with the middle finger instead of a thumb. Like a lot of people do not like this emote. So if you're using it, you're tilting people intentionally. I don't care what good intentions you claim to have. You know that people take it negatively and you do it anyway. You're saying, "I want to put negativity on my opponent at the end of this game." You're the problem. Have a great day, everybody. This is my last Marvel Snap video, I assume. That's enough hot takes, I think. But enjoy playing this game. Cut secondary some slack. Peace.